Hello, midlife warriors. So here's the thing. I have been on this journey of healing like most of us out there, Gen Xers, for a while. And I have come to the point where I'm like, you know what? I can't read one more book. I cannot sign up for one more thing. I am just overloaded with information. It's really time for this thing called transformation. Am I right? So what brought this on was about a year ago, I started working with a forgiveness coach, and that was next level, opening a different gate, a different door. I had a whole different key. Okay. Now, am I new to this journey called personal development and healing? Not so much. When my husband and I started a business 22 years ago, a very wise mentor of ours, who I admired, told us that our level of success is going to depend on our level of personal growth. So he was very encouraging about investing in our growth. And that was in the 90s, which was like, the Zig Ziglar times. It was before Tony Robbins was Tony Robbins we know today. It was Brian Tracy, Stephen Covey time. It was good times. So I'm not new to this. However, I feel like I'm at the point in my life where I really cannot have any more information. It's about transformation. And so anyhow, I start working with this amazing forgiveness coach, and it opened a whole new door for me and, expanded my view, my third eye. And I've come to a realization that I need to share my story, my journey, my path to here. Now, why does it matter? Why does it matter what I say? Well, it matters because I know that I'm not the only midlife warrior out there who has gone through really hard shit and made it through the other side. And also, I think it's really time to stop playing this whole be vulnerable, but not be really vulnerable, right? Because you're still trying to protect yourself. And honestly, if I don't get it out there, if I don't share my journey, I'm not helping myself. That's all there is to it. And if I can't take the experiences that I've had, and if I can't share it with others and help myself come home to myself and love myself, how in the hell am I going to do that for anybody else? How am I ever going to support anybody else? So here is where it all began. Somebody asked me the other day, when was a time in your life where you felt the most broken and defeated? And for me, it was in 2018. Up to then, life was grand, not perfect, but beautiful. Even though there's, I've been with my husband for 30 years. Let's be honest, that shit's not always perfect, and it's not always fun, and it's not always what you want to be in, but it was good. My children, I have 3 kids, now all grown. I have actually a grandmother to 2 babies, and I have a 3rd one on the way. And life was good and amazing and fast paced and doing. And I love doing. Doing is my jam. But in 2018, that changed everything. And then one day, I'll never forget, it was a Wednesday. And I went to the bank, and our banker, who we've been banking with for 20 years, knew us, was like, oh, what are you doing here? Your niece, because that's how we introduced her, closed the account. Now, mind you, she didn't tell us she was closing the account. She didn't forewarn us. She didn't do anything about it. She just did it. And I remember thinking no, she's just, using a different bank to better protect the money, you hear what I'm saying? I knew in my gut in that moment that something was wrong. Actually, I knew months before that. But I also was so overwhelmed with what was happening in our lives that I thought she would never do this to us. Never in a million years. And I didn't trust my gut. I did not have the strength in my intuition, which, ladies, let's be honest, especially as a midlife warrior, intuition is king, right? So I didn't follow my intuition. I didn't listen to my intuition. And I was just like, oh, well, maybe she's just using a different bank for better protection. I was telling myself this lie, right? And the next thing happened. In 2018, a family friend, a very trusted person in our family, and I say trusted, like no one watched my kids other than my mother. And when my mother passed away, she was the only person I would actually leave the house to let her watch the kids. That's the type of trust I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? And I actually very much in my heart considered her my niece. Like we were very close. And during this time, there was a lot of chaos happening in our lives. There was sickness, there were legal battles, it was like this perfect storm of crazy. Like my life felt at that moment, it was already imploding. And then she shows up and says, hey, I want to help you guys. I want to help you keep the business alive and, be there for you. And absolutely, I felt like this is heaven sent because our kids weren't really old enough for that much responsibility. It was really big. We had multiple businesses. We had a lot going on. And when she said she'd help, I was like, absolutely, this is amazing. So we started integrating her into the daily routine, like banking, accounting, business operations, the whole thing, right? Over a period of months. So then I drove to the physical building and naturally it was locked because it was during the day and my key didn't work. And I was like, this is weird. Did we talk about changing the locks? Is this a thing? And she wasn't responding to anything. I was sending texts, no response. So then I asked my husband to text her, no response. And I thought, well, everything in there is ours. We even owned the building that the business was in. So I'm thinking, this is weird. And I remember driving home with this pit in my stomach of like, I think we just handed the keys to our greatest betrayal. I mean, I didn't know how to process the information other than drive, right? So I was just driving home and I remember sitting out in front of our house and I couldn't get out of the car because I just felt like my life on every front, side to side, back to back, was gone, destroyed, imploded, exploded, burnt to the ground. Like it just disappeared. It was fine on a Monday and it was completely fucked on a Wednesday. It was devastating. I was completely heartbroken. I was really heartbroken. I was really devastated. And, people have asked me, like, was I devastated because we lost our business? I mean, honest to God, financially, it was the scariest thing I've ever experienced in my life. Like, what were we going to do? Our daily income was not happening, right? When this betrayal first hit my heart, once I got over the shock of it and it really was the life I was living, I remember thinking like, I will not let this break me. Now, I grew up in a very volatile home. I grew up in an environment and an age and in an era of my father who believed that the iron rod was the ruler of the household, right? So I understood pain in a different way through my upbringing. And I remember thinking like, if my father couldn't break me, this isn't gonna break me. not even close, but it still hurt. So I'll never forget when, it kind of hit me when I was done sort of like being in shock of it. Like, this is the real deal. This is what's happening. What's next? And I still had a child in high school. I had a daughter in college. I had a daughter that had just found out she was pregnant. So there was all of this other stuff going on that needed my emotional and mental attention. I just didn't know how to balance. And I remember thinking, I am going to go get a job in a warehouse and just do my 8 hours, do my job, hide behind a mask. And this was before COVID. I was just assuming I was going to wear a mask at a warehouse. I don't know why. And come home and drink myself to sleep because I didn't want to deal with the situation. Or even really come to terms that somebody I loved and trusted did that to me. So it didn't happen though, because, I have made it through harder times. I am tough. I mean, there was this thing for a little while about like Gen X being like, fuck around and find out. And really that level of resiliency, I don't know if it's a generational thing, but it's a thing. And so eventually, I went into the home and I talked to my husband about it. And then we talked to the family, and then it just got worse. It just got worse. It got worse and worse and worse until I think life tried to break me in a million pieces, not in half, because God forbid, if I was broken in half, it was like, just put it back together again. No, it was trying to break us in a million pieces. So she got a restraining order against us. The news got wind of some other situation, and and then she started sending out emails to everybody, what horrible people we were. And it didn't just go to our database of people, it went to the entire industry, right? It's as if we were race car drivers, and she just went to not just the local speedway, but to NASCAR. It just went wildfire. And honest to God, I didn't know where it was coming from. And her spite and her hate towards us was so uncalled for, was so unnecessary, that without explanation, without any kind of like, hey, by the way, I just wanted to screw you over so I could have your business for free. I mean, not that she had to, not that anybody who does that would ever do that, but I don't know. And that's when I thought like, oh, I don't know if I can keep going. I'm just going to do this. And I don't know about you, but I believe in God, and my faith kind of kicked in and was like, yeah, you're made for so much more than this. This isn't the end. Maybe this is the beginning. But mind you, at the time I was like, ugh, really? So then I thought, you know what? What's the first thing? I don't know about you ladies, but I am one of those people that's like, okay, I have to see the big picture. Like, I got to put this in a structure that I can follow, that I can put my focus on. So I did that. I thought, okay, what's the first thing I need to do? I need to get my finances in order and figure out how I can live a daily life. So I've been an entrepreneur since I was 22. I haven't had to apply for a job or resume since 1990s. Okay. So I was like, what is this? And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but divine intervention was like, I got you. And that's what started my online business, was really by truly divine intervention. I am not kidding. That is how it happened. So I got back into the thing I knew. I've been a business owner forever. So let's try this new thing called the internet. And at the time, I had barely really just checked email. And I had a Facebook for my family members and my friends to keep up, but not really utilized or used for anything other than that. So there was this big, like at least 2.5, 3 year. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite quotes is from a gentleman named Joseph Campbell. And he says, you must be willing to let go of the life you wanted to live the life that is waiting for you. And I don't know why I love that poem or that quote initially. And I realized through this experience, that's what it is. I think part of my integrating and being the healing that I am wanting to experience, a transformation I want to experience, is to let go of the life that I once thought was exactly what I needed and wanted, and to accept the life that is waiting for me. I know. I'm trying to simplify something that was really complicated, but that's really what it was.